My name is Michael Classens, and I'm an assistant professor teaching STREAM in the School of the Environment. I'm also the undergraduate associate director in the School of the Environment. And the research I've been doing the last few years, a few things, but one of my main focuses over the last few years actually has been campus food systems. So you might be able to see some of these in the background here, some of these food growing spaces. So I've been doing work working with students and faculty and staff from universities kind of across North America and a little bit into Asia and Europe, who are working to grow food on campus, to develop cooperatively run cafes on campus, to address concerns of student food insecurity and these kinds of things. I guess generally, as an approach, I'm in favor of kind of experiential learning. You hear a lot about this nowadays, of course, a lot of people talking about it. It's a particular priority, I think, for our university as well, to provide students with experiential learning opportunities. So I try to integrate that into most of my courses and other kind of learning opportunities. So a concrete example of that would be, having students, we have a course right now where students are actually working to grow this food as well. So doing that kind of hands-on work to grow food, but then also learning about why is it important to think about growing food. What are the broader issues of the food system? What are the kind of sustainability implications of our current food system? These kinds of things. So you can use these very practical, kind of hands-on experiences to then think about these broader kind of conceptual, theoretical implications. But yeah, maybe I'll just build on this notion of experiential learning and using that as a way to reckon with very complex, multi-spatial issues like the food system. So I teach a class, for example, where we cook together. I animate this through talking about a tomato, for example. And we can look at the tomato, we can taste these tomatoes, but then you can sort of build from there and think about, well, this tomato isn't actually just a tomato, it's actually implicated in global supply chains. It structures sort of how we organize our economy around sort of the production of food. And then you can sort of envision that tomato traveling from some field, maybe in Mexico, maybe from here, and what are the different implications of a tomato that's grown in the backyard here and one that's grown in Mexico, or one that's grown in southwestern Ontario using migrant labor, for example. And then what are the issues that sort of arise from the use of pesticides and chemicals and all these kinds of things, right? So you can use this really concrete thing, a tomato, to sort of envision the kind of ways in which that thing is implicated in and structures broader kind of social and ecological processes.
So everything starts from a simple tomato.
Yeah, that's right. One simple tomato, and you can, then
it's
suddenly
a big picture behind that tomato. Wow,
yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Maybe there's a couple of different ways to answer that. So I think from a kind of instrumental perspective, certainly having this notation, on your diploma, you can list on your CV that you've had some sort of specialization in sustainability issues.
Yes.
I think that makes you potentially more appealing to potential employers because so many sort of industries and sectors are thinking about sustainability now. And so I think that they're looking for young people who are trained in some aspects of sustainability. So from a kind of instrumental perspective about appealing to the job market, I think that there's some use in that's helpful for students. But I think probably more importantly is to equip students with ways of remaining hopeful as well in the context of these kind of compounding global crises that we're all facing. And so that's one thing that I think about a lot. How do we ensure that students are leaving our programs with a sense of purpose, a sense of hope, a sense of optimism, which I think is very important as well. I think maybe 20 years ago, environmental studies was really focused on all the kind of negative things. We need to talk about those things, but I think more importantly nowadays, we need to focus also on good news stories, hopeful stories, things that are gird our spirits. And so I think that's an important thing of what we're trying to do here as well, is to equip students with these notions that, while there are many challenges in the world, there are equally as many solutions.
Yes. Oh, that's remind me of a concept called critical hope that I learned from one of my
Carrie
courses.
Green.
Yeah. Like you have a hope, but it's not that kind of unrealistic hope, and you only focus on the like the positive area, but you also have think of a negative area, but at the
Yeah.
same time you don't lose the hope to like for a better future.
That's that's exactly right. So I think, so from a kind of practical perspective, again, I think having some familiarity with sustainability, having some tools to equip students to enter the world again with a bit of hope and a bit of optimism, I think is just a really useful thing. And then in terms of the kind of intellectual development, I mean, sustainability is such a sort of wide open kind of interdisciplinary field. And I think one of the things that we do a pretty good job of is working with students to kind of understand sustainability beyond just sort of like retrofitting light bulbs or putting in new windows or new insulation, right? That sustainability actually is about kind of social transformation in all aspects of life.
Yes.
That it really is a kind of social process as well, not just a kind of technological one. Yes, we need to change kind of technologies and we need greener technologies, etc. But that in itself is not enough, that there are sort of underlying kind of social issues that we also need to be addressing. And so it's a really kind of intellectually kind of exciting field, I think, at the moment. And I think that we try to impress that on students, right? That you can be interested, in natural sciences or social sciences or humanities and still find your way to sustainability. I mean, one concrete example, there's a PhD student here who uses one of the garden beds out front, and he's been doing this for a couple of years now, meets with students, and they do some gardening in the bed of the vegetables, but then also write poetry and sort of contemplate sustainability from a sort of poetics perspective. So that's a way that humanities, poetry, etc., is kind of thinking about sustainability while bringing people together in kind of learning communities of support. And so you have all those kinds of opportunities here, I think, again, from the kind of like very hard sciences all the way through to, writing poetry about vegetables.